Hi everyone, my name is Kim. This evening we are going to talk about the grips and loops that ISFJs fall into when they're under stress. Okay, so let's start with the grip, and that is the NE grip. So, extroverted intuition. So they just use extroverted intuition, and the other functions they don't use. They don't use introverted sensing. They don't use introverted thinking. And they do not use extroverted feeling. So they are just an extroverted intuition, NE. Now, when this happens, they think in terms of possibilities, but the possibilities it's negative. It's negative possibilities. That's what they experience when it comes to NE, when they're in NE. So they worry about they worry about their future. NE is NE, the function, person thinks in terms of future possibilities. But when ISFJs are in the NE grip, it's not positive. It's negative. It's like, well, if I do this, what if this happens? And if I do this, something, there's a possibility that something bad's going to happen. So it's negative. So, when they're healthy, when they're balanced, their NE, even though it's lost, it helps them to think in terms of possibilities, but it's positive possibilities, future possibilities. So when they're healthy and when they're in extroverted intuition, they can think in terms of possibilities, some good things to happen, good possibilities that's going to come their way down the road into the future. So it's positive. But when they're under stress and they're in the NE grip, it's the possibilities. It's just negative. It's like, if I do this, there's always a possibility that this is going to backfire down the road or something, or it's just very negative. And they're bypassing their dominant function, introverted sensing. And introverted sensing is about ISFJs. They love planning. They're organized. They value structure and schedules and all that stuff. They're good with details. People that are dominant SIs like ISFJs are good at noticing details, really good. And they have good memories. They don't have to write things down. They've got it all up in their memory there. Very, very good, strong memories. So that's SI, and they're not using it when they're in the NE group, grip. Another function they are neglecting in this grip is introverted thinking. This is a function that helps ISFJs to see if things are, if it makes sense, if if it's consistent or if it's not consistent. Whether that would be an idea or, just analyzing an idea or analyzing maybe a statement. Someone has said something, and then the ISFJ, when they're in their TI, and this is healthy, when they're healthy, they, when they use their TI, they're analyzing, they're seeing if an idea is logical, and seeing if it's consistent or not. So that is, they're bypassing introverted thinking. Okay. Also, they are bypassing extroverted feeling. So extroverted feeling, is about, social norms, keeping the harmony, with social norms, and ISFJs, they are warm people, they're just, they have a warm presence about them. But, when that is neglected and they're just using their NE, they're not, and they're not, they're not thinking about their FE, they're not thinking about, keeping the group harmony, they're not thinking, with introverted thinking, they're not thinking and analyzing and seeing if something is true, if something makes sense. With their introverted sensing, they are, they're neglecting it. This is a function that, helps them to be organized, to have structure in their life, routines, things that ISFJs value. And so when they're in the NE grip, I can't, when they're just in NE, it's, to me, I think of it as being really chaotic, and, chaotic in a way that their place is a mess, they're not organized, clean, places. They like to have their place clean and organized, everything in its place, tidy, like just spotless. And so when they're in their NE grip, they're neglecting that. They when they're in their NE, because NE doesn't care about schedules, organization, structure. NE is just about, for ISFJs, when they're under stress, the grip, negative possibilities. And they're neglecting all those functions, that help them to keep them balanced. Okay, so that is the NE grip for ISFJs. Now let's go into their loop. Now their loop, when they're under a lot of stress, their loop is SITI. Okay, so they're only using SI and TI. And when this happens, they become too rigid with their schedules, with their planning, with the structuring their lives, with routines, and noticing details, like to extreme. They become critical of others, kind of nitpicking, if someone says something, or if someone does something that that ISFJs don't agree with, They're going to judge them. They're going to be critical of them. They're going to say, if a person says something, they're going to say, you know what? And this is TI too. They're going to say to that person, you know what? That sentence doesn't make sense. That sentence is wrong. You're wrong. You're not right about this. And so they really get critical of others, use when they're in their SITI loop, judgmental of others. If a person maybe is not as clean and organized, and structured, maybe this person doesn't have all these things or value these things. ISFJs, when they're in the SITI loop, when they're unhealthy or under stress, they're going to be critical of that person. They're going to, and judgmental, and they're going to say, well, why can't you keep your place clean? Why is everything so scattered? My place, everything's in its place. It's organized. It's clean. Why can't you do that? It's not hard. And so this is the kind of attitude, the critical, judgmental mentality that ISFJs have when they're in this loop. They become too withdrawn. They become too, they use logic. They have TI, but the TI they're focusing on it, and it's used to extreme. So when they're in the SITI loop, they're bypassing extroverted feeling, which helps ISFJs, it helps them to keep the harmony, in a group, whether it's with their family or whether it's with their friends. They want to keep the harmony, but when they're in the SITI loop, they're bypassing their FE. FE is not important. They become too detached, and that's TI. Because TI, a person that has TI in their stack, especially higher up, they are going to be detached. And so when this happens with ISFJs, they become, focusing too much on analyzing to the point where they are detached. And they normally aren't that way. They're warm individuals. Their FE is strong, and so their warmth, it just radiates, it comes out. People like being around the ISFJ because they're warm-hearted people. And so, so that's the loop for the ISFJs. Anyway, I hope you have a good rest of the evening, and I hope this video can help you, for ISFJs, if they're, it would help them to recognize whether they're in the SITI loop or if they're in the anti-grip, these two scenarios where, they're under a lot of stress, and the loops and grips start to overwhelm them, Okay, my time is really going over. I'm going to have to say goodbye.